What about others? Can you hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Vijay.
Yes, we
Yes,
are.
sir.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Krishna, Varsha, Mohit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can see.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me start the session straight away. So today we'll try to take up two simple topics. Like one is how to consume multiple services and how to make use of a fragment concept in our Fiori applications. So how to deal with multiple odata services in SAP Fiori apps. And we'll try to go with fragment if time is suitable. So here you can see so in our application at this point of time, there is only one service that is used and that is already available as part of manifest.json file. The first service is technically considered as main service and it is Z8AM CRUD OData project SRV. Now say suppose I want to add and access second service in the same application. Then you need to consume that particular service before you utilize that service data for screen elements. So by default here, manifest.json file contains a main service as Z8AM CRUD OData project SRV. If you want to access second service, then we have to follow this procedure. So step one is you can collect second OData service details from SCGWT code or use below service for practice purpose. So second OData service name, second OData service entity set, second OData service fields, and make sure that there is a select query already implemented inside this service. They're dealing with fetching of data. So as of now, select query is already implemented here. So this is basically step one. Step two is add second OData service in SAP Fiori project. Step two, add second OData service to SAP Fiori project. So what you can do is just right click your Fiori project folder and you can select new OData service. Select service catalog. In our case, EH7, it connects to backend server. And search for OData service. And select that service. And then click next and finish. Okay, so here, so in this case, you can see, you can right click your project folder, new OData service. You can select this option. With this procedure, you can consume n number of services in your Fiori application. So right click here, new OData service. This is the option you need to select. Right click new OData service. You have to right click your Fiori project folder. So new OData service. Here you will get service catalog. You can select EH7. You can connect to backend. The backend connection is success, then it will load list of services. So there are several services here. So what I'll do is I'll try to search for one of the OData service. For example, Z my 9 p.m. OData project SRV. And this service contains an entity set as user set here. And that user set entity set contains several fields here. Date of birth, time of joining, experience, marital status, course, age, etc. So here, let me take this service. So this is the service name. And there is an entity set inside that, that is user set. And there are fields. These are the collection of fields here. Let me add those things. Some more fields. Let me add all these fields so that we can utilize in our screen elements. So these are the fields that are part of this particular service. So I've copied that. You can see here. Okay, so what you do is just select the service name and click next and click finish. So search for so-and-so service, select this service, click next and click finish. So now you can see when you go to manifest.json file, the second service is added here. First service is our Z8 AM CRUD OData project SRV. And this is our second service that is added after that step 2 procedure. After this step 2 procedure, in manifest.json file, you can find list of services used inside this application. You can notice that. You can also add from here. When you click add in manifest.json file, it opens service catalog. You can select EH7. So you can also add it directly from here. You can add a service, you can remove a service. Okay, so the second service details are registered here. This is technically our second odata service. And it contains the service URL here. This URL, we are going to use it in our coding. For loading the service in our application, we are going to use this URL with the help of odata model class. And this main service is our first service. Main service is nothing but our first odata service, which was used to create an application. So manifest.json file contains the information of services that are consumed here. It also contains several other things we'll try to discuss in the coming days. Okay, so that's how you can add your second service. Or else you can directly go to manifest.json file, go to data source section, click on add here. It opens service catalog. You can proceed with the same procedure by selecting EH7. Okay, not only that, you can see the second service metadata.xml file is also available here. The second service metadata.xml file contains the second service details. ZMy 9 PM odata project SRV. And you can see here, these are the list of fields: user ID, first name, last name, email ID, phone, country, salary, date of birth, time of joining, experience, marital status, course, age, etc. And the name of the entity set is user set in this service. So these details, you can also find it inside metadata.xml file. After adding service, you'll get these details. Okay, now step 3. You can open object controller.js file. You can go inside onInit method. OnInit is a standard initialization method. Every controller in general contains onInit method that is for initialization purpose. It's a standard method. So in onInit method, you can use this for initialization of odata service in our application. You can initialize several other things, but in our example, we are trying to initialize odata service here. It's second odata service in general. You can go to onInit method. You can initialize the values for screen elements. You can load screen elements dynamically. Or you can initialize your second odata service. OnInit method can do several things in terms of initialization. In our example, we are initializing the second odata service here. So that is, you can implement below code. For doing this, you write some 2 lines code here. Let me go to object controller because I want to load the data of second service in object view. So let us initialize that service inside object controller. So in object controller, you can see there is on init method here. There is on init method. Within flower brackets, there is some standard code already available here. There is some standard code already available, so don't disturb this. What you can do is you can just go to on init method, and here you need to create an object for odata model class and provide odata service URL. In this case, it's second odata service URL. Create an object for odata model class and provide second odata service URL. So to create an object, you can use where keyword, odata model object, new. Use a keyword to create an object. For odata model class, we have to do this. But odata model class belongs to some library. OData model class belongs to library, that is SAP UI model.odata. Inside that, there is OData model class. You can see one of the class is OData model class. You have to provide service URL. You can see here. So we are trying to create an object for OData model class by using new keyword. OData model class belongs to SAP UI model.odata library. Now here you need to provide service URL. So that service URL, you can take it from manifest.json file. So manifest.json file contains service name and it contains service URL. So this you can supply for OData model class in on init method. So this is a second OData service URL. So this service URL is taken from manifest.json file. So SAP, OPU, OData, SAP, that's a common path for all OData services. SAP, OPU, OData, SAP, that's a common path for all SAP related OData services. After that, this is a service name. So overall, it becomes the service URL here. While executing the code, it will add service name, service path, and server name, port number, protocol, everything will be appended automatically. But as a developer point of view, you just need to provide the service path and service name. That becomes a service URL here. When the code is executed at runtime, it will internally add protocol, server name, port number. Because we have accessed the service through EH7 service catalog. EH7 is a service destination. So from service destination, it will take all these details. What is the protocol? What is the service server name from which it has to access the service, and what's the port number? So that is appended at runtime by the framework because the service is added to our project by using EH7 service catalog. EH7 is a service destination which contains server name, port number, and protocol. But in your coding, you need not provide this. Just provide service path and then service name. Now, the second step is you need to assign second OData service with a model, with a model name. That means you can use this dot set model. this dot set model and provide your odata model object. Provide your odata model object, comma, you have to use model name here. Model name can be XYZ, ABC, PQR, whatever. But that same model name has to be referred in your view.xml file. Whenever you want to get data from second service, then you have to refer with a prefix as that model name. In our case, let us use model name as, for example, odata2 for better understanding. So in your view.xml files, you have to use odata2 as a prefix in order to access data from second service. Why? Because odata model object is pointing to the second service. And odata model object is referred by odata2 according to this code. So to get data from second service, always you have to use prefix as odata2 in your further coding, especially in view.xml files. To get data to table, list, charts, or whatever. This odata2 can be used in table or list, charts, etc. So if I use odata2 for table, then table will get data from second service. Why? Because second service is registered with some model name as odata2. So create object for odata model class, provide second odata service URL, and then assign second odata service with model name. In our case, we are using model name as odata2. In your case, it can be XYZ. Okay, so this is step 3. In step 3, we are just writing 2 lines code to access second odata service and to register second odata service with some model name. Okay, let me just take the screenshot here. Object controller, there is on init method. That's a standard method. It contains standard code. Don't disturb this standard code. You'll be in trouble. Just add these 2 lines. And there's a service path. There's a service name. Overall, it becomes service URL. Technically, this is our second odata service URL. And here our service is registered with model name. This is technically model name. And this model name, you can use it in your further code to get the data from second service. Okay, so here, this dot set model, this odata2 is a model name that will be applicable for object view only. If you want to utilize this service for all the views, then you have to use this dot get owner component. This dot get owner component dot set model. Then this odata2 service becomes global for all the views. You can make this service global, or you can use this service specific to a view. If you want to make this service global, then you have to use this dot get owner component dot set model. If you want to use this service local to particular view, then you have to use this dot set model. So this dot set model means it is specific to particular view in which you are writing the code. We are writing code in object controller, so it is applicable to object view if you use this dot set model. If you want to make it global, then you have to use this dot get owner component dot set model. Then it becomes global to all the views of that particular application. So you can use it, but at this point of time, let us use this syntax. In the coming days, we'll use this dot get owner component. Later point of time. So that means you can make this second OData service local to a view, or you can utilize this OData service global to all the views. Now, step 4. You can open object view.xml file, create new icon tab filter with content section. Create new icon tab filter with content area. In that new icon tab filter, I want to load table with data coming from second OData service. So here there is, let me save it, go to object view. Let me add one more icon tab filter inside icon tab bar. So icon tab filter with content area. The purpose is to fetch data to table from second OData service in this example. Let me provide some text. Let me provide some icon name, for example, activate. So we are creating icon tab filter with a content area so that we can fetch data to table from second OData service. So that means we are going to create a table here. We are going to create table with second OData service. So that we can do it in the next step, step 5. And go inside icon tab filter, content area. Create, I want to create table. If you want, you can use list, whatever. I want to create table screen element so that we can fetch and display data of second service. I want to create table screen element so that we can fetch and display data from second OData service. For that, you can implement below code. So here, inside this icon tab filter, content area, I want to create a table here. You are already aware of table creation. So let me use the same syntax. After that, I'll try to make some adjustments. A table with columns and table with items, two aggregation properties. And items internally contains column list item as an internal screen element, which internally contains cells as aggregation property. Now inside columns, add column with a label. In cells, use internal screen element for each column along with data binding with OData fields. So here, let me use column with a label text. Okay, let me use list of columns here. And here I want to use cells with internal screen element. For example, let us stick to text screen element here with the text property. So let me add text screen element with text property here. You can use different screen elements if you want. You can apply formatter functions and all those things. So this is a normal approach, and for table you have to use items equal to something like, within flower brackets you can use entity set of second service, the second odata. You can use some width. Fixed layout, you can make it false. This is the normal technique to create a table screen element in your view.xml file. But here, let me just first provide the labels. According to the field names, let me provide the labels. Label text can be anything. It can be uppercase, lowercase, it doesn't matter. These are just labels. Label text can be anything, and you need not follow case sensitive rule for labels. But here the most important is you need to configure entity set of second OData service, because for this table, I want to connect with second OData service. I want to get data from second OData service. But the main point here is second OData service is registered with the model name as odata2. So you have to use that as a prefix here. When you configure entity set of second OData service, you have to use that as a prefix. That is odata2. It's a model name which is connecting to second service. Greater than slash. Then you have to use entity set here of second service. The entity set in our case is user set here for that second service. So let me provide that user set as entity set. Now user set is an entity set. It will fetch data from second OData service, because second OData service is registered with the model as odata2. That prefix we are using here. That's a differentiator. That's a differentiator for first service and second service in our case. For first service, default service, you need not use any model name as a prefix. For second service, third service, fourth service, then model name should be used as a prefix here to differentiate between the services. So odata2 is a model name for second service, user set is the entity set of second service. That's the syntax you have to use. And when you are referring to the odata fields in data binding, here in data binding, you need to use odata2. It's a model name as a prefix. After that, you need to use greater than symbol. And then the odata field name of second service, for example, user ID. So odata2 greater than symbol and the odata field name of second service. So that means we are maintaining data binding also with odata fields of second service by using a prefix with model name. Everywhere you have to use that model name as a prefix here when you're establishing data binding with second odata service fields. Basically, in real time, one project will have one odata service. But if you want to consume second service, then this is a technique you have to follow. The recommendation from SAP is one Fiori project with one odata service. One odata service should have all database operations. That's how you need to develop. But in case if you want to use second odata service or third odata service, then this is a technique which contains data bindings with model name as a prefix. So I'm trying to access odata fields of second service here with model name as prefix. All these field names are case sensitive. Model name prefix is also case sensitive. OData field names are case sensitive. Entity set is case sensitive. And OData model name is also case sensitive. Whatever is registered here, OData to everything in uppercase, the same thing should be used here. So these are the fields that are used in data binding with second OData service with prefix as odata2, because odata2 is a model name registered in object controller in onInit method. So this odata2 can be used for table, list, etc. odata2 can be used as a prefix in your table, list, etc. screen elements. odata2 is technically a pointer to second odata service here. So that's it. So let me test it. If it is working, then we'll copy this code to the node file. So let me go to second screen. Second screen, there is table. This table is getting data from first service. Then there is another icon tab filter. Now you can see this is the data that is coming from second OData service here. Date of birth, time of joining, experience, marital status, course, age, etc. So this is the data that is coming from second OData service without any problem. First table gets data from first OData service here. Second table is getting data from second OData service. There is no problem. We are able to achieve it. But in real time, one service will be used in one project. So this is the data from second OData service. table with data from second ordered service. So there are few points that you need to consider here. How we are able to get this data from second service. Let us consider these few important points. While creating a table, we are using model name as a prefix. So while creating a table contains so this is screen element, aggregation property, and here we are using model name and the entity set of second service. For table screen element, in this case, we're trying to use items as aggregation property. It's normal. But here this is odata 2, that's a model name, and configuring with entity set of second odata service. Model name of second odata service. And this is like the entity set of second ordered service. So that's the syntax you should use when you're configuring entity set of second ordered service here. When you're configuring entity set of second ordered service or third ordered service, then this is a syntax you have to follow. Model name greater than slash and entity set. Model name greater than slash entity set. So that is one syntax you need to remember. Configure entity set of second ordered service with model name as a prefix, or you can also call it as a namespace. Similarly, while establishing data binding, we have used model name as a prefix again. So these are some of the basic points you need to remember. So this is model name greater than odata field name in data binding. Odata field is from odata service. So model name greater than and then odata field name. So that's how you can establish data binding with odata field of second odata service. So here data binding is happening. Data binding is happening with odata field of second odata service. Data binding with odata field of second odata service. That's it. Now what you can do is you can utilize this table screen element to understand the syntax. We have used table, and table is getting data from second service. Now step 6. Save all the files and run the app. If you want, you can try this assignment. So consume second odata service. Display data in list screen element. Display data in list screen element by fetching data from second odata service. We'll try this. Consume second odata service. Display data in list screen element by fetching data from second odata service. Okay, you can try that. Okay, let me go with one more simple topic, that is like fragment concept. So here, fragment contains two options here. One is like fragment definition and fragment call. Fragment definition is to maintain the code or collection of reusable screen elements. It can be one or many screen elements. Fragment concept is to reuse the screen elements. I want to access one screen element or multiple screen elements in multiple views. Then you can place that screen elements code in one particular fragment file. Fragment is required if you want to load the same screen element in multiple locations or multiple views of that application. Then that code you can implement in a fragment file. So this fragment definition is to maintain the reusable code for screen elements. It can be one or many screen elements. Fragment definition is to maintain the reusable code for screen elements. Can be one or many screen elements. Then the second one is fragment call. Fragment call is to access fragments in a view. Fragment call is to access a fragment in a view. Then only the screen element will be displayed in that location. So in my case, what I want to do is I'm having object view.xml file. I want to create icon tab filter. In icon tab filter, I want to load a fragment. I want to load fragment. That fragment internally loads. For example, I want to load list screen element here. So here we are going to create a fragment file with fragment definition. You can create one fragment file with fragment definition. In fragment definition, you can place reusable code. For example, I want to place list code. In fragment file, you can have fragment definition. Fragment definition contains reusable code. But this fragment, I want to access inside object view.xml file. In one of the icon tab filter. In icon tab filter, I want to load the fragment outputs. In icon tab filter content area, I want to load the fragment. So that means this fragment, you can load it here. You can load the fragment. So when you load the fragment in object view.xml file, then that fragment will internally load the list screen element because fragment definition contains list. This fragment definition contains list code. So it will display list screen element here. If you access a fragment with fragment call. Now, not only that, you can access this list in some other view as well. For example, I want to access this in work list view. worklist view.xml file. I want to access the same list. So you need not create list again and again. For example, there is one icon tab filter content area. Inside that, you can load a fragment. Fragment will load list screen element because fragment contains list code. You can go to any view and you can try this. And that fragment is reusable. That means list is reusable because we are expecting fragment definition to have list. So you can have worklist view.xml file. Inside that, assume that there is icon tab filter, and there also you can load a fragment here. So here, this fragment can be accessed in first view. That means object view, according to this diagram, or it can be accessed in second view, wherever you want. So this fragment reusable code will load list screen element in object view as well as worklist view if you try to load the fragment in these corresponding views. Because fragment file is a global file. So whatever code that is part of fragment definition, that code can be accessed in multiple views. Object view, worklist view, third view, fourth view, you can access that wherever you want. So loading a fragment, in this case, it can load list screen element here. Because we are expecting fragment definition file to have list in our case. Okay, so let me just save this. Right, so what's the procedure to do this? Step 1. Step 1, just right click your view folder. Right click view folder of your project. And select new file. I think you have to provide file name. Let me try here. So you can right click your view folder, then select new file option. Right click view folder, new file option. And here provide some file name. For example, new fragments. For example, new fragment.xml. So fragment.xml is an extension, standard extension for fragment files. The name of the fragment can be anything here, XYZ fragment. But the extension should be fragment.xml. So in our case, the fragment name I'm using, for example, new fragment. Name of the fragment can be anything, but the extension must be .fragment.xml. Oh, this is a file name we are providing in our case. Then click on OK. It will create an empty file. It will just simply create an empty file. So that is technically step 1. We are trying to create a fragment file here. Step 1 is basically we are creating a fragment definition file. Right click view folder, new file, provide file name. For example, new fragment.fragment.xml, click OK and save it. Step 2. Now inside this new fragment.fragment.xml file, To provide fragment definition. To provide fragment definition with reusable screen elements. That is, you can implement below code. So fragment.xml file, that's a empty file by default. You can see this. Empty file is created. Now what you need to do is inside fragment.xml, you can use a syntax like this for fragment definition. So you can use core fragment definition here. So within this fragment definition, begin tag, end tag. Within this fragment definition, begin tag, end tag, you have to provide some libraries here, whichever libraries you want. For example, XML, NS. Then you can directly register one of the library, for example, SAP.m. Okay, let me register other libraries. XML, NS, for example, core. SAP UI core is one of the library. Whichever screen elements you want, for those screen elements, the respective libraries you can register here. For example, form. SAP UI layout.form. XML NS colon, for example, layout. The coming days, we are going to use layout. SAP UI layout. So whichever classes from whichever libraries you want to utilize, those libraries you can register inside top section of fragment definition. SAP.m library, SAP UI core, SAP UI layout, SAP UI layout.form, etc. But here you should place your reusable screen elements. The fragment definition begin tag, fragment definition end tag, within that block, you can place your reusable screen elements. Here you can place your reusable screen elements within this block. So this is a begin tag for fragment definition. This is the end tag for fragment definition. Within that block, you can place your reusable screen elements here. Whichever screen element you want to access in multiple views, that you can place it here. So in fragment.xml file, this is a syntax you have to follow. Fragment definition file. Now in our case, say suppose I want to place list code here. List. Inside list, you can use standard list item as an internal screen element. List contains items. Example, I want to configure entity set of odata service. And standard list item contains some properties like title. I want to maintain data binding with odata field. Description. In flower brackets, you need to use it for data binding. Counter, data binding with, for example, salary field. Info, you can use data binding with, for example, email ID field. This you are already aware of. So you can place your screen elements. One or many screen elements, you can place it here inside your fragment definition begin tag and end tag in fragment.xml file. So for list, if you want, you can use some width. In our case, we are using list code inside fragment definition. We are placing list code inside fragment definition file. List code inside fragment definition. Now this list I'm expecting, this list output I'm expecting in one of the view, for example. So what I want to do is step 3. I want to create one new icon tab filter in object view. Open object view.xml file. In object view.xml file, I'm expecting the output of fragment. So try to create one new icon tab filter to display that output. Content area. Create new icon tab filter with content area. So in object view, I want to access that fragment. That means fragment call, I want to do it from object view. So go to object view. In object view, let me add one more icon tab filter in order to show the output of a fragment. So here, let me add some text. Fragment call. Icon. Now here I want to access a fragment using fragment call. Access fragment using a fragment call. So there is syntax you need to follow. So as of now, this is icon tab filter. Let me check whether that icon tab filter is loaded or not. So it's not going to second screen, maybe because of this comment. Now you can see there is second odata service. After that, we have created a new icon tab filter for loading a fragment. The output is blank at this point of time because icon tab filter is having empty content area. Now let me access that fragment by using a fragment call. So icon tab filter is created. Step 4. You can go inside new icon tab filter. Content area. And access fragment with fragment call. So how to do that? Just you need to write single line code here. To access a fragment, just you need to write a single line code. So here, I want to access fragment with fragment call. For that, you need to write a single line code, that is, you have to use core as a prefix, and you need to access a fragment. For this fragment, you need to provide fragment name as one of the property. Fragment name is one of the property of fragment class. For that, fragment, the type of the fragment. In our case, it's a fragment.xml file, so the type is XML. Fragment.xml file is our fragment definition. So the type here, while accessing the fragment, it should be type equal to XML. And the fragment name you need to provide here as new fragment. But that fragment is available in a view folder. So use view.new fragment, because fragment is part of view folder. And these views are part of some namespace. At the time of creating a project, we have provided namespace, I think OSS, so that namespace has to provide it. Namespace of your project, the view folder in which the fragment is available, and then fragment name. That's it. Namespace, view folder in which the fragment is available, and then the fragment name. Don't use fragment.xml here. It's not required because the type itself is XML. Don't use fragment.xml because the type is XML. So you can avoid this. First, you need to provide fragment name and the folder in which the fragment is available and the namespace of your project. So if it is working, then we'll try to utilize it. Let me run it. When you run this, you should get the list output inside that new icon tab filter. So it's not going to next screen, so there is some problem. 500 pixel is of type string. Okay. In fragment definition, there is extra single quote. Let me remove that single quote, save it and run it. So now you can see there is a fragment tab. If I click on this fragment tab, now you can see we are able to get list output because of fragment definition file. Fragment call is accessing a fragment from fragment definition, and it is loading the list output comfortably without any problem. So object view, in this case, object view is loading a fragment. Fragment is internally displaying the list screen element because fragment definition contains list as a reusable code. So that's the reason why we are able to get this. This is a direct list screen element, but this is the list coming from fragment definition. This is a direct list screen element, but the last icon tab filter contains a list coming from fragment definition. So we are able to succeed here. So what is happening is it is loading list screen element. List screen element is loaded from fragment. And that fragment is accessed inside object view.xml file. Object view.xml file is loading a fragment. Fragment is loading list output here. Very simple. Object view.xml file is loading a fragment. In this case, fragment is internally loading list screen element because fragment definition contains list here. Object view.xml file loads fragment, fragment loads list. If you want, you can go to worklist view. In worklist view also you can load a fragment. There also you can display list because list is reusable code in a fragment definition. So whenever you want to reuse any screen element, that screen element should be part of a fragment definition file. So object view access fragment and fragment loads view. Sorry, fragment loads list screen element. In this example, we are able to get that output. Right, so let me copy these lines. Fragment definition. In step 2, we are creating a fragment file. And this is a code we have implemented inside fragment definition block. This list is available. Now we have created icon tab filter. After that, we are accessing a fragment. So for that, we have written single line code here. This is a single line code to access your fragment. And step 5, you can save all the files. Fragment file, view file. You have to save all the files. Fragment file and view file in this example, and run the app. Okay, there's 5 more minutes. Okay, so here, let me give that syntax before I close it. So if you want to access a fragment, inside object view.xml file, we are trying to access a fragment by using this syntax. So here you have to provide this is the important line to access a fragment. Inside that, there is Oasis. Oasis is our namespace of our application. View is a folder name in which the fragment is created. And then there is new fragment, that is name of the fragment. Our fragment is fragment.xml, so type is XML. So fragment is a class name to access a fragment. Fragment name is a property. For that, you have to supply this value. Namespace dot folder name dot fragment name. Type is another property. XML is a value. So here, you can use Oasis. In our case, this is a namespace of our project. This is like project namespace. And then this is folder name, and then this is fragment name. Fragment name, folder name, and project namespace. So these things you need to supply to access a fragment inside view.xml file. It can be first view, second view, third view, but this is syntax. Access fragment call, you can use this syntax. Say suppose if you forget this namespace, if you don't know what is the namespace of your project, then you can go to top section here. In top section, you can find your namespace somewhere here. In case if you forget the namespace of your project, and see, you can go to any view. Here you will find your namespace. This is basically namespace of your project. While creating a Fury project long back, we have provided namespace as Oasis, so that is registered here. And if you forget, you can get it from here. You can go to any view. For example, work list view, object view, you can go to any view and you can get the namespace. Find the namespace of Fury project. If you go to work list view, in work list view also you'll find the namespace. Oasis is our namespace, you can see here. And if I go to something like controllers, object controller, in object controller also you can find the namespace here. Something like Oasis here. So that namespace should match, then only it will load the fragment properly. You can go to any controller. In controller also you'll find the namespace. At view level also you'll find the namespace, because namespace is a project related namespace. So that same namespace you should use it even while accessing a fragment here. Okay, so I think I've copied all the lines. First, create the file, then provide fragment definition with reusable code, icon tab filter, then call the fragment. So if you open a standard applications, what happens is you will find something like this. In standard applications, this concept is used. For example, you'll find a purchase order screen. Here you will find something like approve and reject button. For example, if you open a purchase order screen, you'll find approve and reject button. Approve purchase order, reject purchase order, something like that. So assume that there are two buttons here. So when you click on approve button, it opens a dialog box. When you click on reject button, also it opens a dialog box. So dialog box is common screen element here. If you click approve button, it has to open a dialog box. If you click reject button, it opens a dialog box. So which means dialog box is common screen element here. So that common screen element, you can place it in a fragment. So dialog box is open irrespective of your button click. It can be approve button or reject button. Ultimately, it opens a dialog box. In dialog box, you may get a message like this. Do you want to approve purchase order or reject purchase order? You may get, if you click on approve, you'll get, do you want to approve purchase order? If you click on reject, you'll get, do you want to reject purchase order? Something like that. This is dynamic. The text will be dynamic here, depending upon which button click that happens on the screen. And here you'll find some mark here with yes or no. It opens a dialog box with some text and with yes or no options here. So the point here is very simple. If you click on approve button, it opens a dialog box. If you click reject button, it opens the same dialog box. So dialog box is a common screen element. So that dialog box common screen element, you can place it inside a fragment.xml file. In this case, you can use a fragment concept. In standard applications, if you open standard applications at the end of the course, you'll find this. It's very simple. So that means, let me write the description. In this case, on approve action, dialog box is open. On reject action, again, dialog box is open. Same dialog box is open with a different text, of course. That means, in this case, dialog box is a common screen element or a reusable screen element. So we can place dialog box code inside fragment definition file. Dialog box is common and reusable screen element, so we can place dialog box code inside fragment definition file. In standard applications, this is the very common approach. Fragment is commonly used in this particular scenario. Okay, so okay, so I'll stop here. I'm already running out of time. So next session, we'll discuss some more interesting topics.